Welcome to the CSV QBO to IIF Converter 5.0 tutorial. So when you first open the application, you're greeted with a wizard, kind of walking you through the program and helping you import your vendors and your accounts. Let me show you how it works. So first you're just greeted by this first box. It just tells you it's contributionware. It's free. You can use it on as many computers as you want. But if you want to contribute, there is a contribute button, which lets you donate however much money you want to donate. So we'll hit next. Now here it lets you import your autocomplete data and your accounts. This means that as you edit a transaction, as you type in the name, all of your vendors appear. So how do you get your vendors in here? Well, you can load an export of an IIF file from QuickBooks. First, let me show you how you would export it from QuickBooks. Inside QuickBooks, go up to File, Utilities, Export, List to IIF. Now put a check mark in Chart of Accounts and Vendor List, and hit OK. Now just save this file wherever you want, or at least wherever you know you're going to be able to find it. So go ahead and save it. And then in here, say Load IIF Data. And we're going to go ahead and choose my QuickBooks export. Had actually saved it from inside QuickBooks. And it says successful. Both my accounts and my vendors have been exported. We're going to go ahead and hit next. Now you can do the same thing for your bank and credit card accounts. These are the accounts that when you finally export your transactions to IIF, it'll give you a list of accounts you wish to export them into. So what we'll do is load that exact same file that we exported before. And that has been successfully imported. Now hit next. Now it tells you about the rules editor. I'll be showing you that here shortly. It tells you can watch this tutorial that I'm showing you now. It now supports profiles. So if you have multiple company files, each company file can have its own profile in this app. So each profile will have its own vendors and accounts. I'll show you that too. Now we're going to give it a default account. The default account is an account in QuickBooks for uncategorized transactions. Meaning in this application, you can pre-categorize things such as Mid-American Energy would be my utilities. But things like Hy-Vee or Walmart, where I might buy creamer, shaving cream, those things I don't exactly know what they are. So I specify those to a default account in QuickBooks that I go back in there later and handle and give it an actual category once I look up and break it down to what it actually is. In my case, I'm going to call it Premier E-Corp Debit Offset, only because years ago when my bank would give me IIF exports directly from the bank, that's the account they always specified. You can call it whatever you want. We'll call it Premier E-Corp Debit Offset. Next. And that's it. You've now set up the application and you're ready to use it. So what I'm going to show you now is the application in its most basic sense, meaning you just want to import a list of transactions, instantly convert it over to IIF. What you would do is first choose which button you want to click. Are you loading a CSV or are you loading a QBO? In this case, I'm loading a CSV. If the CSV has memos, if you want to use it, choose yes. If not, choose no. At this point, these are all your transactions. You can simply click on Select All and convert to IIF. Now, these are all the accounts we imported during the wizard. In my case, it will be going into my personal checking, which is configured as a bank account. Now, if your specified account's not there, you can simply add it right here. Add account, give it the account name and the type of account that it is. Now we're simply going to click on the convert, and we'll give it a name. We'll call that Feb 2025. Now, once you save it, it lets you know what account you selected and the type of account it is. That way, in case you save it, you're like, oh crap, I saved it to the wrong account. You'll know before you actually import it into QuickBooks and watch it get imported into a different account. So that is the application in its most basic level. But the thing also supports rules. Much like in QuickBooks, you can specify if it's this name on the transaction, rename it to this. If it's this name on the transaction, rename it to this and put it in this account. This way, the majority of your transactions can actually be pre-categorized automatically for you. And then when you import it into QuickBooks, those transactions you don't even have to do. They're done. It's pretty cool. So here's how you do it. I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can do it. And let's just start by actually creating a rules file. So we're going to go ahead and click on Create and Edit Rules. And what do we want to do? We want to create a new rules file. Now you can save this rules file wherever you want. In this case, I have a folder on the desktop called Demo, where I'm storing all of this stuff. So we'll call it Adam's Rules File. Now hit save. Now, the first way I'm going to show you how to edit the rules or to add rules to the rules file doesn't include this box at all. And we'll get back to this box. But for now, I want to show you an easier way I've added to the app. So simply take that empty rules file. You're like, wait, it's empty. What am I going to do? How am I going to load this into my application if it's empty? Well, I'll show you. Load rules from file. And we're going to load that empty rules file. And we're going to say highlight transactions matching a rule in green. And load memos, the original descriptions over here. I'm going to say no. There we go. Now let's deselect everything here. Okay, so let's start with Venmo cash out. You'd simply put a check mark on that transaction and say add to rules. Now, in a lot of these, this number changes per transactions. So we don't want to match that. That would, or the whole thing, because that would be pretty unreliable. Pretty much that would never match anything ever again. So let's delete that. Let's match something that never changes. Venmo cash out. Let's match that. Replace with, and here again, as you type, all your vendors automatically show up. Venmo. And my account, all my accounts automatically show up. And we're going to say Venmo. Now, once you hit OK, it's going to say it added it to the rules file. And every rule or every transaction that rule matched will be in green. So you know the ones in green are done. Now, as you can see, what you would do is you would just load or add everything to the rules file until this entire thing is green. Once the entire page is green, you're done. So let's do another one. Now this one will be going into my uncategorized account because that could be toothpaste and food. I'm going to have to break it down in QuickBooks. But we can at least have it rename it in QuickBooks for me for at least the vendor. Add to rules. What to match? In this case, I usually match just Walmart. and replace with Walmart. Now in this case, because I want to leave this one empty, because it's actually, I'm going to leave it uncategorized, we'll just hit OK. And when you hit OK, it'll add that default account you specified in the wizard to the account box. And that one's done. Now, if you want to actually look at the rules file that you've been adding to, you can simply go down here and say Create and Edit Rules, open existing rules file, and load the rules file that you created. And you're going to see what we have in here so far is Venmo and Walmart. Now you can see in here is where you could actually add a rule right in this box. So for instance, if we want to match, let's do Hy-Vee fuel. Let's match, and actually if you want to edit this transaction directly on the line, you can just double click it. So let's match Hy-Vee F&F. Oops, let's just kind of demaximize that so we can draw a box behind it. We're going to match Hy-Vee F&F, and we're going to replace it with, once again, let's do that one will be Hy-Vee fuel. There we go. And if you don't have a vendor, if you're missing a vendor, when you add it here, it will actually automatically add it to the autocomplete file. And that will be automobile expense fuel. And we're going to hit Add Item to List. And there it is. Pretty cool. So, also if you scroll down here, we're going to see one called Premier Communications. Now, Premier Communications is both my internet and it's my telephone. So that one actually needs to be split. And you can actually split transactions in here. Here's how it works. We're going to match. Now, to split a transaction, you do have to actually come into this rules editor, split it. You can't split it on the add to rules. That's just for basic rules. If you want to get a bit more nitty gritty, you can just open it up in here. So we're going to say match, let's see, unless I fat finger it, Premier Com, replace with Premier Communications, and come down here to amount 1. That's going to be my telephone, $31. And that, for me anyway, goes into my business telephone, landline. Amount 2, we're going to have to open a calculator here to do some math. 31 minus 144.33. So $113.33 would be my second amount. And that is my gigabit internet. And I'm telling you, gigabit internet is amazing. And there you go. Now what you would do is click Add Item to List. And if you're splitting a transaction, just say, if you want to, just choose yes. Now, a split is in purple or blue, whatever that color looks like to you. And it actually sets the account right there as split. And you can actually search these or scroll the list. It's kind of nice. You can just kind of scroll the list and say, hey, that's a split account. Now, if we scroll down here to, let's see, there's one in here for $37.96. Right here. Now, that's a credit card payment. And what's almost always on my credit card is my Visa, is my Verizon bill for $37.96. 90% of the time it is, but not always. Sometimes my Office 365 comes out. So you're like, well, how do you match a rule to something called Visa payment that might not always be your cell phone? Well, you can match it by the amount. So we can actually match Visa, replace with Verizon, add the account, telephone, cell phone, but only if the amount is, and I just lost it on my screen here, $37.96. And we're going to click Add Item to List. And match by number, or match by amount, is green. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, what else? Now, you can also, for instance, let's take deposits, which I do at the bank, and I actually add a deposit in QuickBooks. So all these deposits are actually already in QuickBooks. If I were to import them in there, I'd have duplicates and I'd have to delete them. But you're like, well, that kind of stinks. When you select all, you're going to have to go through and uncheck each deposit. What you can do with the rules file is you can match the word deposit, replace with, just put the same name, and make the account ignore. What that means is on this list, when you load your rules file, you can say select all except ignored. And anything with the account ignored, or in this case, my deposits, will automatically be unchecked. How cool is that? So we're going to go ahead and say add item to list. And ignored are in red. So that's two ways that you can actually import or add files or entries easily into your rules file. And if you're ever wondering what the colors mean, you can click what do the colors mean, and it'll tell you. Now, there's one more thing you can do, and that is to load a tab delimited file. What that means is you do a print off of your check register in QuickBooks, and I'll show you how to do that. And choose 2 or 3 years. You can actually bring that in there into here, and almost everything is done. Let me show you how that works. So if we go in here and we load our personal checking, now I'm not going to go back, you don't want to go back the entire history of your QuickBooks because you probably put certain things in certain spots that you might not still put in. You might have categorized them differently back then. So we're going to say print. And we're going to say, in this case, let's just do, back to 2022 as an example. So January 1st, 22 till today. And we're going to hit OK. Then choose File, and then Tab Delimited File. Print. Okay. So we're going to call this Tab Test. You can call it whatever you want. And we're going to go ahead and save it. Now we're going to go ahead and close that and say Create and Edit Rules. Now this would be mostly used for when you're first creating your rules file. You could use this to get a bulk of it created for you. Just say Import Tab Delimited File. And this tells you that if you actually use the account numbers, show account numbers, turn that off first before you do it. It can kind of cause issues on export. I think it's just turn them back on in QuickBooks. So by default, when they import in, they actually put a little star next to each name. That means that when you load the rules file, you won't get unintentional matching. Now, you can choose not to, and that's cool, but I like to keep them on there just so something doesn't automatically match that I don't want to have match. So we're just going to choose our file, and we're just going to go to tab test, just or wherever you save the file. Hit open, and it loaded it. Now what it wants you to do is turn around and create a file, or a rules file, from that file you just imported. In this case, we'll call it Atoms tab rules file demo. Now, because I chose to leave the hashtags on the front of it, you're going to notice everything's in black. But what you'll notice is that a lot of the stuff is already matched. ChatGPT. That is the correct account. What you would have to do is, if this is the actual, if that shows up on the transaction description, you would just go like this. Take that off and update. And now that one's automatically going to match. But in this case, I think if we do a search for, maybe it's not there. Maybe it's ChatGPT. No, I thought I might have had it on this one. But we can do PayPal. And you can actually search this list too. Let's see, PayPal. Okay, that's actually not a split. Like I say, this is one way to do it. See, that one's correct already. In this case, we would delete that and just put Venmo, cash out, see how it matches that. And we would just hit update. But honestly, I think the best way to do it is like I first showed you, load an empty rules file and just keep adding add to rules. But let me show you how you can now apply that rules file that you created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reload that transaction file. And I'm going to load the rules file that I've created for myself that I've been using every time I do my bank statements. So we're going to say load rules. And we're going to load this one. And watch what happens. Boom. Now, there's 53 transactions. And if we say show uncategorized transactions, these are the only ones I'm going to have to enter. This one's going to get unchecked because he's already in my cookbooks. But these, obviously, check. Don't know what that is. Walmart and Hy-Vee's. I'm just going to have to, they're going to be renamed in QuickBooks automatically. But how cool is that? And if you look over here, scroll down here, and that one's already split for me. That one's done. So everything that does not say Premier eCorp Debit Offset, that's done for me automatically. It's pretty neat. Now, like I mentioned before, when you load your CSV, sometimes I actually go off headers. And I don't have everybody's header. If you contact me, I'll add your specific header. But there is no standardization. Every bank uses different headers. Some use the same, but there's some where I'm missing headers. So when you load your CSV file, it's going to say, here's just a sample one missing a header. It's going to say incompatible, contact me, I'll add it in. But what you can do in the meantime is try mapping it yourself. Every column that it already has will be in green. So what's missing is just the amount. Now the amount's already taken care of in this case by credit and debit. We're missing the description. Now in this case I just took the word description, put the word demo after it. But description demo is not in my header list, compatible header list. So we're just going to say that's my description. You can see it right here. That's the column for my description. And say OK. Boom. Compatible. So that's kind of cool. Now, let's see. What else we got in here? Autocomplete options. If you want to remove a vendor, if you've fat fingered a bunch of gibberish and added it, and it always keeps recommending it, you can go to edit autocomplete list. And you can find said vendor, find said account. That's auto-completing, but you don't really use that. And you can just delete it from the autocomplete list. So that's cool. You can also add an account to a sub-account. Like for instance, you can just type in an account name, choose a sub-account, and then save it. And that sub-account in the correct format will show up on your account list. And if you're using QuickBooks 2018 or earlier, that account will automatically be added to your account list in QuickBooks on import. 2019 and newer, you do have to enter by hand. Otherwise, it'll bomb out because it's not already in your list. In here, you can also import a QIF file from Microsoft Money, or there again, import the one we used during the wizard. Because what you can do in here too is just clear the autocomplete completely and then just re-import everything all over again. Just kind of start fresh. Now also, if you want to rerun the wizard, you can just go up here and say run setup wizard, and that'll start the wizard all over again. Now I mentioned this thing also supports profiles, and this is pretty cool. So let's say that you have not two people, but just two different company files that you use, and you want to separate the autocompletes and the accounts separate from each other. What you would do is click Profiles. And in here you would say, I want to create a new profile. Profile name. We're going to call this Adams Company File. Now when you hit OK, you're going to be seeing a wizard just like before, but this time it's geared more towards just a new profile. I removed some of the screens you don't need. So basically all it does in here is it imports your, let's see here, imports your accounts and vendors, your bank account and credit cards, and default account. That's all you need. So in this case, we're going to call it Adams Company File. Now, normally you wouldn't want to use this name, but I'm going to be using this name only so you can tell that it is actually switching between the different profiles. And we'll hit Next and Close. And there's Adams Company File. Now, the moment you add a profile to this list, each time you load the application, it will now give you a profile selection list. And now we're in the profile. Obviously, that's the only one we have. But let's do another one. Let's go up here and say Profile. And we'll say Add Demo Company File. And here's where you would import that company's file as export. And they're going to be separate from the other profile. Now, I'm not going to load it in because I only have one company file. I don't have anything to give it. But what I will do is I'm going to call it Demo Company Profile, just so you can see how it's dynamically switching between them. Now, if you want to load the demo company file or the demo profile, double click. And you'll see up on top, it'll tell you which demo companies, which profile is loaded. So if we load our CSV again, we're in the demo company profile. Now this would be the demo, this would be this profile's default account, but for this purpose, just for you can see it's switching. Now let's say you want to go to your other company profile. Simply go up here, reload your CSV. It's just that easy. That is how you switch profiles. It's so cool. And you can go up here to autocomplete options, edit autocomplete list. This is our list in Adams profile. Now, obviously, our other profile was empty completely because we didn't import anything. So if we go there and go to the autocomplete list, it's empty. How cool is that? Now, what it does when you do that is in your folder where you have your exe file, there's now one called Profiles. Now, if you want to back that up, you can just back that profile folder up. And here's Adam's company file. There's my autocomplete. There's my accounts. There's my settings. And I never import it into this one, but here's an autocomplete file that's empty. And here's the setting for this profile. I do recommend you just take this exe file and just put it in its own folder. Also make sure when you download the latest version that you put it where the other one was, because if it's just by itself in its own folder, missing these files, it'll think it's being run for the first time. You won't have any of your profiles, and it'll walk you through the wizard. So just when you download it, just take your, go to your downloads directory, right-click on the exe, copy it, and just paste it where the other one was. The nice thing is that if, for instance, whatever new version I release has a bug for you that you're experiencing, you can actually just keep all the previous versions. There is no installation. They're just single exe files. And so if they're in their own folder, you can, like this one is, you can just back up this folder to a USB flash drive, and all the settings are automatically backed up. That's pretty neat. But let's say you don't want a profile, like that demo profile I created. Just go to Profile, Demo Company File, delete. And there you go. It's just that simple. What else do we have here? Up here, here's a contribute button where if you want to actually give me a monetary contribution, you can use Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, or a credit card. And up here, you can also check for program updates. And I'm using the latest version. When you launch the application, and if there's a new version, you'll see update available in the corner. And you can just click it, and it'll give you a link directly. It'll tell you what's new, and it'll give you a link directly where you can download the new version. And you can select all except ignore. Let me show you how that works. Let's load my rules file here. Select all except ignore, and those get automatically unchecked. You can select all, select everything. You can select none. You can select all credits except ignore, or all debits except ignore. Or you can say select all except ignore and default accounts. Under other options, you can select by amount. Sometimes these get reversed because some banks use a positive number for a debit and a negative for a credit, and so they're going to be on opposite sides of each other. If that happens, you can just swap them. You can just say swap debit and credit, and it just swaps them for you. There's no way for me to fix that in the program other than just letting you reverse them. Swap. And that's about it for the program. That'll just give you just a demo on how to use it, the basic functionality of it. So I really hope this program lets you use your old version of QuickBooks for years to come, and you don't have to succumb to QuickBooks and pay $1,000 a year. So this program should make your life a lot easier. Have fun.